So I'm getting ready to remove the speaker. I noticed here on the case what appeared to be rust, and you look up here and we got some rust on the case. However, I don't see rust anywhere else, so hopefully it was just isolated in this area. Here's the printed side. And don't look too bad at first glance. Right there's the back side of the microphone element. And right here is the power jack and the charge jack. And behind the camera is jack. Oh, can't see that one, can you? Let's go ahead and hook up some power directly to the board and see what happens. Actually, before I hook up power, I'm going to remove the head so I could access the back of the on-off switch. That way I could do some readings of the power wire and then also check the switch. I removed all the knobs, and those things put up quite a fight. Next thing I need to do in order to remove the head off is I need to unscrew this nut off of the speaker mic, or I'm sorry, after the speaker jack. And the way you do that properly is you get your best 2 butter knives and you just jam it in there the best way you can. Now I'm goofing. Use a spanner wrench like this and you adjust it to size, and you can't see because of my big hands. You put it in like so. There we go. And just bust it free. There we go. And there we go. Get the head off. And that's what it looks like underneath. One thing I noticed as I'm tearing this apart is right here on this battery terminal. There is corrosion. I don't think it's from a battery. I think it's rust like what we have on the case here, like what we have right here. So I'm just wondering if this hasn't been around salt water. So what I'm going to do before I hook this up to power is I'm going to check it with my voltometer continuity. I'm going to check the negative wire that connects to the battery compartment, comes out here, and I'm going to see if we have continuity to chassis ground, and I'm going to also follow that in and see if I can find out where it connects to the board and try to get continuity there. I'm also going to do the same thing for the positive wire. The positive wire comes in from the battery block and then comes into jacks here on the side of the radio. I'm going to check that, and then I'm going to check from the jack, and that wraps all the way around to the on-off switch, and I'll check for continuity there. If everything looks good, then with it apart like this, I will connect it to my benchtop power supply and see what happens. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Maybe we'll get a really cool smoke show, lightning show if we're lucky. While I was poking around in here off camera, I did find one resistor that looked a little suspect, so we're also going to check that out as well. For continuity, I've got it set up on my meter, and we'll touch here to confirm. All right, and so we'll take this side and connect it to the battery terminal, and we should be able to touch chassis ground. Okay, so that works. I noticed the negative side wire from the battery terminal comes right here to this gingle of wires. So let's test that right there. So that works. Let's try the positive wire next. I have the negative side of the power supply connected up to the battery block, negative side, and then I've got the speaker connected up to an external bench speaker. We're going to connect the positive to the block right here. That way we bypass the actual jack itself. Just in case the jack is messed up for some dumb reason. We turn the power supply up to about 6 volts. The radio does call for 12.5 volts. Okay, so we're 6 volts. Let's go ahead and turn it on and see if we could hear any noise. And nothing. Let's turn the power supply up to 8.5. Now I'm also noting that we're not getting any current draw. Well, I got just a quick draw when I hit the on switch. Something's happening there. However, no noise. Okay, at 10.5 volts, I am getting a 11 milliamp draw. Volume is up. Yeah, I see the power supply respond properly. I also see the power meter, battery meter responding like it should as well. So why aren't we hearing anything? volume full blast, and it makes no difference which way I adjust the squelch. I'm not sure which side is hot or not. And at the full 12.5 volts, I am getting a 20 milliamp draw, and that does reflect when I turn the power on and off. And again, squelch makes no difference. Changing the channels make no difference. You can see right below where my thumb's at, there's some corrosion on the board, and that is a resistor. I couldn't get a reading off of it with my voltometer, so I would imagine it's corroded pretty good. We're going to try to clean that up and take a reading and see what happens. We might have to reflow the solder or pull it out completely and check the traces. Here you can see I've cleaned up the contacts, and you notice this big spot around the contacts where all the corrosion was eating into it. I scraped that off. I'm still not getting a reading off of the resistor, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and test it out of circuit, and also clean up the contacts pad here a little bit better and give that a better visual inspection. See if we have permanent damage in these points. If so, then I'll have to run wiring to fix that up. It's been about a week since the last time I've worked on this radio. Ran into some issues with the values of the components. I was having a hard time seeing some of the markings on the casing. So just to cross-check my work, trying to find a downloadable PDF service manual on this radio was next to impossible. In fact, I couldn't. Went to eBay and purchased this Sam's Photo Fact for this radio. There's the book number if you need to order one yourself. I've thumbed through the schematic and looked at some key areas. Just to recap on the radio, it does turn on, power on, and it does appear to transmit, but I'm not getting any audio out of the speaker. So I believe my issue is going to be in the audio output stage. With this book here, I was able to identify the component, which is a IC chip, and we're going to test the values on that and see if they are where they're supposed to be. For that, we need to connect power to the radio, which is 12 volts, and then take our voltometer and compare it to what the values are in the book. Let's do that, shall we? The item in question that we're going to test is this Hitachi HA1339 audio output modulator component. I'm going to try to do this and keep my big hands in the way so you really can't see that well. I'm goofing about that, but unfortunately that's probably what's going to happen. So not much I can do, but we'll try our best. So this is a 10-pin chip. Right here where my negative probe is at is ground, and over here is pin 1. Now I know you can't see the voltometer, but this is supposed to give us 12 volts, and right off the bat I'm not getting anything. Let me just make sure I've got 12 volts coming into the radio, which I should. Yes, I've got 12 volts coming into the radio. So let's go ahead and move forward, check the other pins. Alright, I guess I just had to jab the probes a little harder, and I'm getting 12.5 volts. So let's move to pin number 2, and that should be 1.28 volts. And that appears to be giving me 12.5 volts as well. Let's go to pin 3. Pin 3 should give me 7.29 volts. And pin 3 is also giving me 12.5 volts. Let's go to pin 4. Pin 4 should give me 1.37 volts. And that's also giving me 12.5 volts. Pin 5 should be giving me 2.9 volts. And that's giving me 12.36 volts. Pin 6 should be giving me 3.5 volts. And I'm getting 12.06 volts. Pin number 7 should give me 2.93 volts. And that's giving me 12.54, and pin 10 should give me 6 volts, and I'm getting 12.06 volts. So we definitely have a problem in that package. I'll do some more research or some more checking, probing around this area, look for cold solder joints, other elements like that. If you look right here, you could definitely see we have a cold solder joint. Now I've seen several of those throughout the this board. Just poor solder work on this board. So definitely need to hit it with the iron. I'm sure at one point in time it has worked, so, but we'll definitely reflow the solder.